Cause it's time to move on now. It's time for Murder Blues.
Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo.
Ooh woo woo woo.
Not ooh woo. We're not ooh woo.
Not ooh woo.
Not
No
ooh
ooh
woo.
woo.
Ooh woo.
Okay, how about ooh woo?
Was that like Japanese ooh, or like was it like you're like coughing out a lung?
Yes.
Well, Ken and I are the only ones here today. We are Murder Moose, a horror podcast, part of the Slash and Cast podcast network.
It's a game.
It's in Ken's ass, along with 4 raccoons.
No, the 4 raccoons are in your ass. I just live here.
You live in my
Hello.
ass. You live in my ass.
No, well, only on Tuesdays.
Hello. I don't know. I'm losing my
Hello.
goddamn mind, dude. Today has been a day from hell. Because one, I woke up and I slept like absolutely.
I woke up.
That's not what I meant, but yes, there you go.
I know.
There's my subconscious coming through. I woke up and that's the end of it. This is why it was a shitty day. No, I woke up after sleeping like shit. I had to go get my blood drawn for my Adderall, and then after that,
What are they testing you for when you get your blood drawn for your Adderall?
just making sure that like it's not fucking me up or whatever, that I'm like not gonna have like my cholesterol isn't too high or some shit like that. Like it's
I
funny
know
'cause-
that my one doctor, when I was like gonna have to go through someone else to get my Ritalin, she was gonna make me do a drug test, and I couldn't have like weed or anything in my system if I was gonna have her prescribe my Ritalin, and I had to do it every 3 months. And I was like, okay, like that's fine because it's not legal
Yeah.
in Tennessee. But then I ended up getting it elsewhere, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, go ahead.
that just seems man. Why anyone cares about anyone doing weed is beyond me. And then I had a guy come because my water heater had stopped working over the weekend, and I had installed it like literally the year I moved into this house, which was like coming up on 11 and a half years ago, and had to replace it, and that cost almost $3,700. Oh, my asshole hurts. And then like I was just gonna finance it and pay it off over the next year, and they like it was like the lowest percent fucking interest was like over 7%. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, I was like, fuck that.
off.
I'm already paying my car in like those kind of ranges. I'm like, fuck this shit, man. I'm so tired of like this shit, man. We have really become like just like we are all like enslaved to these corporations, and it's just it makes me a sad panda, Ken.
yeah.
It makes me a sad panda. So,
It's ridiculous.
how's your day? I know you played a lot of Rim Job and then or Rimworld and then
I did both. I mean, yeah.
what were you said you were chilling out reading? I know you watched this in the movie in Discord. Was Stav I saw was in there, and I don't know who else was watching it with you. But
There were quite a few people in there. We didn't talk throughout the movie though, and I didn't have the text pulled up
yeah.
because I'm going to be honest with you, I was killing it at Candy Crush during the movie. So it was because the movie, like, we'll get to the movie, but there were some elements of this movie that were so just slow and dark, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody seemed to like it. I mean, yeah, we had quite a few people in, so that was good. But yeah,
I
what have
was
you been
like,
watching this week?
what?
What have you been watching this week?
Let me see. I watched on Netflix the Ashley Madison documentary series.
Ooh, I would have watched that.
And
I forgot about that.
Fuck, man. One, I didn't know that shit was still running. That site is still running to this day. Two, the shit, like there's other stuff that like I didn't know that like about that I'm like, holy shit. And three, it's just like man, that whole shit was fucking shady. And it's like, obviously, Ashley Madison always. If you don't know what Ashley Madison is a site that came out in like the early internet days, like the early 2000s, and that was designed for married people to have affairs. And the reason the name Ashley Madison was around was because it was the two most common girl names the year that the website came out. So that's why there are a lot of Ashleys and Madisons. I don't know how many Madisons I've ever met in like.
Oh, I actually know quite a few. I used to play softball with a girl named Madison. But yeah, I actually know quite a few Madisons.
I mean, Ashley has always been a pretty common name, but like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm surprised it wasn't like Ashley Jessica or something. Because I feel like our generation is the Jessica generation. And like, no offense to anybody named Jessica, but I have a really bad feeling as we get older, Jessicas are going to be the new Karens.
Dude, it was, for me, I see fucking tons of Megans with all the fucking, I mean, even my ex's name Megan, Katie's and Kate's, and then like, and now since I'm in Colorado, I see like weird hippie versions of names too, and like I don't even know right offhand, but yeah, it's an interesting experience. Like, yeah,
There's a subreddit called Tragedy, and it's TRAGEDEIGH, and it's all these different weird ass spellings of names.
yeah.
You know, just people being like, oh, how do you say this? Like, there's this one right now that's up there. It's QXAXIA. And people are
Quixia?
saying,
Quixia?
yeah, the pronunciation is Quaxca.
Dude, you know what makes me mad about that though? Like, I'm glad you have these names, but then those people get mad when you don't pronounce their insane names correctly. I'm like,
exactly.
if you have an insanely spelled name, like another one that makes me laugh and is like, this even applies to Brian. I mean, Brian isn't here this week, but like, he is BR. Which Brian is he? God damn it! Now I'm gonna fuck it up, and I don't want to fuck it up because then he's gonna yell at me. Let me see. Brian is BRYAN. Like BRYAN and BRIAN, and they get mad at each other, and it's just like the same. The fucking Sarahs get mad. I don't know if you know Sarahs. They get mad when you put an H on and you shouldn't. Or yeah, like
I just saw a Jessica spelled JESHICA.
Oh, you know which one I hate? Jeff spelled with a G. I hate that one. Like,
yeah.
All that shit. Like,
I always want to say Geoff because, like, it never clicks in my head that it's Jeff, and I'm always like Geoff.
Geoff. It's like Jeff.
But I will say, like, the one that drives me nuts is when people stick letters in names, and I'm bad for it too. Like, we've had this conversation about people sticking L's in my names, but I felt so bad because, Kinsley. There's somebody in the chat whose name is Lila, and I keep sticking an A in it and calling her Layla. People are like, if you don't want to be called Kinsley, don't call her Layla. And I'm like, that's valid.
I understand, but I don't think people realize how difficult it is, like, commemorating names with fucking screen names, especially when they're not the same. Or they're the weird spelled ones or weird words, or which is why, like, I used to run it by, like, my original Twitch handle was Ionacada because it was my email address and shit like that. And like, nobody would ever get it right when I started streaming, so I just changed it to my name. And so that's been what I've used for a while. And it's like, and I get called Rob when my name is written on the screen. So it's like, yeah. So I watched.
I've gotten used to people, you know, I mean, I've been streaming now for like almost 10 years, so it's not uncommon. I'm used to people not pronouncing continue correctly. Like, that's fine.
Dude.
As long as they don't call me Kitsune, because then I'm like, okay, there's no S. Like, there's nothing I don't understand, but I get it because I do it all the time. I've gotten to the point now with people's names where I shorten them in case that they're like bad and I'm just pronouncing them wrong, but also I shorten them so I get a chance to like really look at them to figure out how to pronounce them, and if I can get away with it, just keeping them shortened so I don't fuck it up.
any name that's about more than one or two syllables, I pick part of it and just say that part of the name, because
Yeah.
it's like there's no way, like you're sitting there reading these names all the time, and it's just like, and I know you do what I do too, Ken, because there's a problem when you're a streamer where we autocomplete things with the ADHD. Like, and so you read part of a sentence or you read part of a name, and your brain autocompletes it because it's bored already, like reading a name, and so you're like, you have to be careful, especially with names that are the same colors and shit like that. That you're just like,
Oh yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
like, ugh.
We
But-
had there was a time period for a bit where I had like 3 different people who like I would think that they were the same person typing every time. So I just started calling them all the same thing, which was all 3 of their names like smushed together in pieces.
Yeah.
So anytime any of them spoke, that's just what they were because I couldn't distinguish them.
Yeah. Dude, I had a couple years ago, there's a clip on my channel of my chat all switching their names to purple and completely
God.
fucking with me. Like, because I was complaining because there was like 3 or 4 people that had purple names at that point in time. And then they all changed their name to purple to fuck with me. I'm like, you motherfuckers. You motherfuckers. So, yeah, it's, man, I mean, that's what chat loves to do is fuck with streamers. What else did I watch besides Ashley Madison? I didn't go see In a Violent Nature. I was going to, but like, dude, I so tired, and then like dealing with everything else that was coming up. I didn't do that. I don't know if I watched anything else. No, I don't think so. What about you? I mean, I know you're watching more Game of Thrones. Did you finish it? Or are you close to finishing it?
No, I only watched like a couple episodes this week. Because like I have mainly been honestly like I've been running and stuff. I didn't run today, but I've been running, and then I've been just listening to the graphic audio version of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I'm almost through the second book because I've read them and like they're great. I love them. And then just rereading them or re-listening to them has been really interesting as long as it's graphic audio. But right now I'm reading through Throne of Glass, which is by the same author. There's like 8 books in that series, and I finished Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So I'm just reading a lot.
Those are
like a lot.
Those are horny fantasy, right?
Yeah, they're like smutty
dude,
fantasy.
It's funny because it's like, I think like it feels like 50 Shades of Grey was such an awakening of like people realizing these. I know these books existed before, but it was such a like, hey, guess what? There's a lot of really slutty books, and guess what? Women can like slutty things too, just like they like it in a different format than porn. And not that women don't like porn, but like, yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I it's funny because it's like, yeah, people are people regardless of what genitalia they have, so they like to be turned on regardless of how they want to be turned on. So
yeah, well, I think a lot of people like what's kind of happened over at least the last few years, especially with TikTok and stuff, like people, you know, COVID happened, we found vices, people dove back into reading, people discovered more smut, and people were already reading smut. But people discovered more, and then with TikTok, and we were alone, and we're like, you know, what the fuck are we doing? Let's share our likes. And it just kind of became like, oh, it's socially acceptable to discuss the fact that we like to read about a girl getting fucked raw dog on a table. Like, that's okay. And so now everybody's like, hey, like, read this particular page in A Court of Silver Flames, and do it in public on the bus so people can stare at you awkwardly while you turn bright ass red. I was running yesterday listening to the graphic novel of the second A Court of Thorns and Roses book, and just happened to start right on like the most vivid sex scene in the book. And so I'm just running listening to this, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this. This is a lot better when somebody else reads it with, you know,
and then
gusto.
Ken slipped off the treadmill because of the No, man, like, dude, I am completely happy with people doing that stuff. I remember when I was like a teenager, I would like, even like younger teenager, like I would go to the library and get books, and I remember getting like someone had written a book in the Alien universe, and like there were sex scenes in it. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, because like that was like way before the internet. Like I mean, the internet existed, but it wasn't like what is now. So like you're a horny teenager, you're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. Yes, and yeah. So
I
it's
used
all
to
that-
read, like, as a teen or as a, young, older middle schooler or teenager, there were a lot of smut websites that I read, but like I
Yeah.
never got into like the Tinder or Tumblr stuff. There were just a few different ones that I would read, and I would be like, oh, you shouldn't talk about those kind of things.
So I got what? I got 6+ years on UCAN, and 6.5 years or whatever it is, or that's a little less than a half, but like 6+ years on you. So that shit is like, that shit was forming like when you were in high school. I was like working full time, right? So like that shit was like way more prevalent at that point, because my high school, especially, the internet was such in the infancy days of that shit. Like you would find porn. I remember getting in trouble because my dad found, I didn't realize I was like typing in like girlswithbigboobies.com and shit, like because I was a fucking horny 13-year-old like using the internet,
Right.
right? And like, and then my dad's like going yelled at me because he's like, what are all these things? I'm like, I don't know, man. But like, yeah, this shit is, when you there's a reason why the human condition is invent technology and turn it into porn, like turn it into sexual things like right away. So like, yeah. So,
That's amazing.
what season are you on now of Game of Thrones then?
6.
Because you were talking about, you saw the Hodor scene today, like you were talking about it earlier today.
Yeah, I saw that the other day, and I was a mess.
Dude,
I was a mess.
so that scene, and then just like everything like, I don't know, man. I almost feel that like George R.R. Martin, like when he doesn't know what to do, he's just like, kind of like J.K. Rowling when she's not like hating trans people. She's just like, I don't know what to do. Let's kill a character people love.
Yep.
And then George R.R. Martin's like, I don't know what to do. I need tragedy. Let's really, and it's just like, because I don't know, man. Bran, the character, and that whole thing is just like, you literally overloaded this motherfucker's brain into the fact that like he can only say one word. It's like he like turned him into Groot from fucking
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I am Groot instead of I am Groot. It's just Hodor. Which, if you don't know, Hodor is a concatenation of hold the door, and yeah, it is. Yeah. So Bran fried his brain to so he could only say hold the door, and it turned into Hodor. So,
It was so sad.
yes, it was. And I laugh because I see, like, I saw it in the last week, like rumblings of George R. R. Martin's gonna like gives updates and is like, you're never releasing that book. Shut the fuck up, George. Like, I don't know, man. If read those books at some point and then read the especially the last two and tell me that this motherfucker has any clue what he's gonna do, because nope, doesn't, has no idea. I'm not saying he should write a Game of Thrones book every year, but like, motherfucker, you haven't written a book. You haven't released a Game of Thrones book since 2011. You've released other books. You've done all this shit. Fucking Brandon Sanderson has put out like a entire book series that are all like longer than the Game of Thrones books, and he's 4 books in. So shut the fuck up. Release these books and stop writing about feasts. God damn it, George, you fat motherfucker. And that's my other thing with him is like, I always say that his wife should stand over his shoulder, and whenever he starts writing about a feast, she just smacks him and goes, "No, George, no, no more feast. Write the story." So yeah, but that's never gonna happen. So here we
That's
are.
amazing.
Yeah, Dude,
Amazing.
dude, I started reading those books in like, I think whenever the TV show came out, which was like
2015.
No, was it
2012?
It was like 2012.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I was like, I watched the first season, and it was 2011, and I started reading the books. So it was like 2011. I read the books. I'm like, you get to those last 2 books, and you go, This motherfucker has no clue what the fuck. Like the stuff that like there's a whole bunch of shit that's just Tyrion doing shit that like barely even makes it into the show. I'm just like, yeah, because none of this matters because you don't know. So okay, Ken, let's dive into our spider movie of the week. We watched Sting, which came out in April of 2024. And do you have a synopsis, Miss Ken? Continue.
I do. After raising an unnervingly talented spider in secret, 12-year-old Charlotte must face the facts about her pet and fight for her family's survival when the once charming creature rapidly transforms into a giant flesh-eating monster. Before we go any further, if you read this description on IMDb, the author or whoever the fuck wrote this synopsis loves hyphens. There are so many fucking hyphens in the synopsis. And it honestly, it's only 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 4. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. But that's too many. Like, you don't need that anyway. It's like comma splicing, but with hyphens.
Dude, it's funny because it's the one. There is a thing where the specific dating type I'm aiming at for. I have literally come across more than one. There was like a war between the Oxford comma and the not Oxford comma. Like, I hate the Oxford comma. I love the Oxford. And it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
It's so crazy because I was one of those that was like, I will never not use the Oxford comma. Like, it's just how it is. Like my all I have to do is go back and get like one more English class, and I have a bachelor's in English. And I was like, no, I will never not use it. I don't use it much anymore. Now
Dude,
I feel weird. And I'm like, fuck, language is wild, man.
English is fucking weird, man. Like so when I like 5-ish years ago, I started writing or 5 or 6 years ago, I started writing for this website. And at that point, they're like, yeah, we only use one space after a period. And I'm like, what? And like, it's just like, why are you? I don't know, man. It's funny, and you don't think it because you think that like English is just English, but no, man. Why English isn't the same as it was in 1592 is because motherfuckers are just like, no, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna make words up. No. Now we do use Oxford Common. Now we don't use Oxford Common. Fucking A, man. Just stop this shit. This is why people fucking like. Autocorrect is a bitch because autocorrect doesn't know what the fuck is going on either because this shit changes every other fucking day. So yeah, I want to say a couple things. One, the dad in this movie looks like Clive Owen for sure. Mm-hmm. Number 2, you're not funny naming your daughter the main character, the little girl of a fucking movie about a giant killer spider, Charlotte. Stop it.
I don't know. I thought it was cute. Honestly.
It's just like, it's like throwing a fastball down the center of the plate. It's just like too easy. It's just like, no, don't do this because as I'm flailing my hands around, if you're not watching the video, I pulled my headphone cord out, so I had to keep talking until it was put back in because yes. So.
Now, I will say, just throwing this out there, throwing puns, throwing a fastball down the middle isn't that, you can miss that. Maybe you're not used to hitting fastballs, where are we going without ever knowing the way? Fastball.
Where are we going without ever knowing the way? Do. Dude,
anyone could see the road. Sorry.
I recorded a TTRPG yesterday, and we played robots who were like, the whole purpose of them was like taking small children to their birthday parties in the apocalypse. And I ended up being just like a Teletubby who like would project like pop culture references out on his Teletubby tummy.
That's great.
And yeah, and it was pretty. And I called myself like was 88487, and my name was Baby. So I just took because the yellow Teletubby's name was Baby, which I didn't know before like doing this and whatever. So, but yeah.
Did you see that meme of the Teletubby? I don't think it was you that sent me this one, but the meme of like the 4 people going in Lord of the Rings and like the Hobbit
I sent that to you
and everything. Yeah, that one was great.
Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember if you had sent it to me or if it was in my Discord, but
No, I sent that to you. I am pretty confident, but I don't fucking
that's a
know.
good one.
Yeah. Um,
That's a good one.
I was gonna say it's funny after watching Infected last week. The main character of Infected was way more responsible for the mayhem and chaos in that movie than this little girl was, because this wasn't a spider. This was a fucking alien that looked exactly like a spider that like fucked up everything. I want your opinion, Ken, because the first thing that this spider really kills in this movie is a parrot, and I was trying to figure out where the feathers went, and it didn't look like it was eaten at all, and I didn't know what was happening with that, and it was just like stuck to the bars. It was like this. I was like, and I'm just like, what?
I thought it was great.
I was
The parrot death, even the cat. Like as much as I didn't want the cat to die, it was great.
It was one of those. It was one of the little smush face cats that always look like they have the bitchiest bitch face of all time on their face. Like they always just look like they're like the Karens of the cat world. They're just like they have bangs and their like hair is like cut down to their fucking chin, and they just look like I don't know where it was. I found it the other day. It was a meme, and it was like these four ladies with the most Karen haircuts at like a diner, and it was like managers beware or something like that. But like those cats look like the giant carrots, and it made sense because its owner was a giant Karen, and the only person in the whole movie. I'm like, yes. Well, actually, the Asian dude, I was happy when he got eaten because that guy, one, drove me crazy.
He was, oh my god, yeah.
With his monotone voice. And then, too, he was pulling shady shit. I'm like, you motherfucker. You're just trying to, like, steal this spider from this little girl so you could, like, do whatever the fuck you wanted to. Good. Get eaten, you piece of shit. But also, okay. There's a whole thing. So I'm gonna synopsis a little bit, and then I'm going to fast forward, and then I have a question because this. So spider crashes through orbit into Dollhouse of New York City, where this little girl is running around for whatever she's doing. This bitch is like John McClane and Die Hard, like crawling through vents. And she goes into her grandma's apartment, and her grandma lives with her like great aunt or what. I don't know. Ken had a whole debacle about calf cousins or shit like that, and whatever that is. But like, for whatever reason, she's crawling through the fucking things and like goes into this and finds this spider and takes it. At this spider, it's a space spider. It's an alien that looks like a spider, and I'm just like, why were you? Because I think she was stealing dolls from the old lady to sell on the internet, and then like, I don't know what she was doing with the money. Is she have?
Yeah, that part. I think I just like missed that part, like why the doll thing. I wasn't sure if she was just like posting pictures of them or if she was selling them, but like I think I must have looked away at that particular moment. I know it was very early on, but
No, because her stepdad says something about like the dolls missing or something like that. Like, so I just kind of put two and two together. She had stolen dolls to like, but even then it's like you have the opening scene where the grandma is like calling the exterminators and like, hello, my name is Gwenda or whatever the fuck, like whatever Ukrainian sounding name was like she had, and like getting these motherfuckers like just eaten alive. And like, okay, I have a question for you. Did you kind of think at that point that like she was like the old lady in Lake Placid where she was like feeding, like because this was before the story, like, and she's like feeding people to the spiders because they were her pet because you didn't know at that point what was happening?
I honestly can't say because I don't think I've seen Lake Placid, but regardless, like I understand bookends and movies and stuff, but I did not like that because it just felt like a silly way to start the movie. Like it felt very weird. But no, I didn't think that. I thought like, I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of storyline there that was like don't get me wrong, I liked the movie other than like some little things here and there.
Yeah.
But it felt like a lot of those storylines were just kind of tossed in as not so much filler, but like, okay, well, we need more than just this little cast. What
Yeah.
can we add?
Yeah.
Because it is very limited. And there is some conversation online regarding that too, about like, it's very limited cast and it still feels even more limited. Whereas other movies are successful at taking a really small cast and making it seem very
Yeah.
diverse. It
Yeah.
almost feels like they could have left out certain characters, like the great aunt. She didn't need to be there. They could have done a whole other thing, but it felt like a cheap and easy way to be like, oh, this is our
Yeah.
our grandmother with dementia. Here's an aunt that takes care of her and she's a bitch. Like, okay.
I think she was just set up there like she was the only character you were like happy she got eaten by the spider because she was the definition of a cunt, and she was the one who kind of set the stepdad off, like, because she like he starts hitting the like fucking furnace, and then like I don't know, man. There's one of those like things where like I also enjoyed this movie, but there are things about it you're like there are, it also like is very much like introduce this thing in Act 1. Better use this thing in Act 3. Like the minute the fucking garbage disposal shit that happened, I'm like, oh, okay, that's how they're gonna kill the spider. I was like,
yeah,
can you make this any more obvious? Maybe, but you don't need to because I at least fucking called it. And if I'm calling it, I will say the things about this movie. I really like the little girl who's.
Oh yeah. I was
did it-
looking up her stuff a second ago because she's great. As far as an actress or whatever, her name is Elila Brown.
Yeah.
I think is how you say her name. She's gonna be in the new Mad Max movie
that came out last weekend.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
She was in The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, which is a TV show, The Secret Kingdom, True Spirit, 3,000 Years of Longing, Nine Perfect Strangers, Eden, Children of the Corn in 2020, and Mr. In Between.
Dude, the Children of the Corn movies need to stop, man. They
really do. I think we've like had enough.
Dude, even I will say this. The first one is okay at best. And the one that, like, you have I think Linda Hamilton was in the original, like, and that's what, like, but and they have like more, like, it's like Amityville. Like Amityville is like one of those movies that is way more iconic than it has any right to be because of the quality of the film. I don't think I've ever seen. I saw the remake with Ryan Reynolds, but like I don't think I've ever seen it because like I'd never heard that much about people loving Amityville Horror. And then I listened Brian's podcast about it with his other show like back in the day, and they were both like kind of things like this is mid at best, and yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things where like this movie kind of feels like it doesn't feel like it was meant to be a horror comedy from the get-go, if you know what I mean. Like it feels like they were like, we need more comedy or we need more horror. Like it has that feeling of like it doesn't always know exactly what it wants to do. And there's like really good like comedic elements, like I like the black the pest killer guy, like exterminator guy. He's funny. Like the old lady is like not funny but sad. Like, you really need to meet my daughter. It's just like, oh, and she says it like the first time she says it, especially you're like, oh, that's a kick to the nuts, or to the lady, the clitoris. It's either a kick to the nuts or a kick to the clitoris. Either.
I think that like anytime those come up, it's really hard. Like if you've ever been around someone that you care about and they can't remember who you are, it's painful.
So literally the first episode of this podcast was Relic, or what the fuck was it called? But it's this horror movie about dementia basically, and fuck, man. And it was like me and Josh were kind of like both kind of like wishy-washy on it, but like it was funny because early days of the podcast we kept going back to that movie because it was like it was a real like effective way of, it wasn't like straightforward. It was really kind of weird, but like that shit's fucking heartbreaking, man. And it's like I'm of the fucking policy if I ever start losing my mind like that, please take me out to the back and fucking shoot me in the back of the head like Old Yeller, because fuck, man. Like, I honestly think, and I don't know if I've said this, my truly great, I hate heights, but my truly greatest fear is like getting stuck in like a body that can't respond, but you're just sitting there going, like, you're like in a, like, they think you're like completely comatose or something like that, and you're like, because that, the concept of like not being able to move or communicate, that would drive my brain into another realm, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, fuck, man, that shit's horrifying, because our brains are who we are, man. So like that shit's scary. I was gonna say like, like little things about this movie that I'm just like not like huge deals. Like they basically just took a Black Widow and they took the hourglass and made it a stripe. That I was like, it looks exactly like a Black Widow, just like striped back. And that was like one of the things. But I'll say the CG, just like in Infested, Ken was trying to find the budget for this movie while we were like setting up. Not a lot, and
They used a lot of practical effects, including a puppeteer for the spider. So there's a lot more, like the way that they did it from what I could find was that there was CG, but a lot of practical effects were used. And that's why so much of the movie is dark, because as we've discussed on here numerous times, if a movie's made and it's very dark, it's typically low budget so that they can hide a lot of stuff. And the more I looked, the more I find that it was a low budget movie.
Yeah.
It looked decent, but it was so dark. And I don't know about you, but like it felt like the volume was weird on it, like super not unbalanced, maybe unbalanced. It just didn't feel right. But when it, anyway, that was kind of a tangent. But yeah, the CG was good looking, but
Yeah.
the practical effects were well done.
Well, it's the thing where it's like Jaws, right? Jaws, one of the best horror movies of all time. The reason why Jaws is good, like as a practical effect thing, because the shark, they didn't have a lot of money and the shark wasn't working, so they had to hide it. It's the same thing, man. That shit is way better. That's why Alien is like that too. Like the original Alien, you don't see the alien all that much. I mean, it's like, and then when they did it was practical effects. It was a 7-foot like Kenya guy from like in that suit that made it like so horrifying. It's like practical effects will always be better in my mind until like, I don't know. I think until they're able to trick us into like thinking these shit's real, but like, man, I don't know. And also like that shit just seems like it's cheaper as a practical effect, right? I don't know. I don't know. I think it was funny because like we had no idea. I hadn't watched anything about Sting before watching this. It just seen people talking about it, and what I said when I was watching this, I was like, at least this bitch didn't bring the spider into the apartment complex like the dumbass from Infested. Like that's what I think. Like her blaming herself, I'm like, bitch, that thing landed in the building. You were like, I mean, if you had killed it, okay, but like, it's not like you like were like, oh, I'm gonna bring this spider home and put it in the fucking apartment and then it ate everyone. Like,
Yeah.
it literally landed there. Also, what is with the American Godzilla ending where they were like sequel baiting this shit where they're just like, hey, guess what? There's like, do you remember that? Like the original, like the American Godzilla movie from like with Matthew Broderick, or they very end of that movie, they showed one of the fucking eggs opening and they were going to make a Son of Godzilla movie. And that, man, you know anything about that?
Just set it up.
Well, dude, yeah, but like, that thing is with that movie that was fucking weird was they gave it to a guy who didn't like the Godzilla movies, and so they made Godzilla more of a iguana who was like afraid of like Godzilla means like he's supposed to be like a god, like you know he's supposed to like you know, unstoppable, and they made him a little bitch. Go watch the American Godzilla again. That like he runs away from the army. It's like in real Godzilla movies, just like I don't give a fuck. You guys are little bitches. Like he's just like I'm Godzilla, whatever. So yeah. But, yeah, this is like, there's a lot to really like in this movie. There's a lot of good performance. I really like the whole like stepdad and daughter like thing. And,
Yeah.
but I don't know, like, did you kind of feel like the whole stepdad thing, like they kind of like made him go like, and I don't know, they were kind of implying it was stress with like his shitty job and then him trying to get the comic out, like him losing his mind a couple times in that film was just like when he tells the Charlotte that her dad is like in the United States and just ignoring her, that shit, and then like when he punches the TV out of fucking nowhere, you're just like, what the fuck is this dude's problem?
Okay, first of all, money issues. Second of all, he's trying to balance the mother upstairs or the mother-in-law upstairs,
Yeah,
a newborn, a stepdaughter with I mean, she's not bad. Like as a stepkid,
yeah,
not bad at all. Like as a kid, she's not bad at all. But you're trying to balance all that shit and then she starts acting out and you've got to be tired like from a very particular perspective,
yeah.
I could 100% see why he freaked out. Like he got electrocuted, which I don't think you can get electrocuted through HDMI cables, but I could be wrong because they do
Yeah.
pass power through, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
But he got electrocuted and just hauling off and punching the TV. It wasn't like he picked the TV up and bashed it into the wall and beat his wife with it. He stood up and punched the TV. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird,
No,
but like that
I
didn't.
think you're right. I just think it's like it's harder to express in that little thing where it feels like this movie was 90 minutes almost on the like it was like just 90 minutes, like the sweet spot of movies. And I just think it was harder to convey in that shorter period of time where they it feels like they were trying to convey this like, you know, situation of stress of like you said, money issues and all that. Believe me, I understand money issues, but like it just feels like they tripped a little bit. Not saying they failed at it, but they kind of
Yeah,
it
they
feels,
definitely. There's a lot of conversation online about him. Like a lot of people discussing that as a character, he could have been so great, but they threw so many curveballs in so quickly that
Yeah.
they made him appear disjointed. So then, therefore, the performance suffered, where it wasn't really the actor's fault, but it
Yeah.
did come across super disjointed. But the relationship with the two of them, I think, is really, really sweet. It's really well done. It shows a lot of growth.
Yeah.
It shows a lot of, you know, I mean, he's got a point. Like, I totally understand when he was like, well, you know, why is he not here then? You know, talking about
Yeah.
her dad. I got
'Cause
it.
he-
I understood.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a piece of shit. Like I think part of the thing that like with the length of the movie that the mother really doesn't get much of a story arc at all. She's just kind of there to kind of like have those conflicts happen and have terrible bangs. What is with her hair in this movie? Her hair looks like she's like she's got these hair terrible bangs, but then like her hair looks like it's like static electricity make her hair poof out of her head. It's almost like I'm like, damn woman. Like I don't know. I think she didn't get enough time to kind of do stuff with that, and I think that is part of the thing. It's like I'm wondering if there's like a movie like a cut of this film that was like an hour 45, 2 hours, like where they had more of the family stuff, like in the studio wanted like no 90 minutes, and because you know. 90 minutes is fuck man, I'm like choking on I'm
Choking on all that dick. Sorry.
I wish I was choking on all the dick, but no dick in my mouth. But yeah, I was wondering if like if there was like a little bit longer. I don't even think like you needed a half an hour longer. I just wonder if there's like a 15-minute longer cut of this that has more of the family stuff that they're like, no, get it down to 90 minutes, and they had to cut out some of the family stuff. Like, because I think there is a lot of good stuff in this 90 minutes with that. Like I really like the scene where the mother was like telling him, she's like, she started drawing because of you. She started doing this stuff because of you, and she idolizes you. And I think that there's like a version of this where it's even sweeter and like you kind of care even more because of like they show that stuff. And I do you think that there might be a longer cut of it that like
Maybe. I don't know, but maybe. I think I honestly am not sure. I think like if there was a longer cut of it, I wouldn't watch it. I mean, I'd watch it, but like I enjoy, like I've said numerous times, I enjoyed this movie, but God, did it drag in some places.
Yeah.
Like, at least in my opinion, there were
Yeah.
moments that it just felt like, okay, come on. Yes, we're doing this. Okay. Like, but maybe that's just because I've watched a lot of horror and like it just
Yeah.
felt in moments
Well,
like, objectively I couldn't look at it and be like, oh, this is great because I was
yeah.
like Weasel
Well,
was back here and I was watching and I was leaned on Weasel like about to fall asleep a couple times. I
yeah.
was tired. It didn't have to do with, anything
Yeah.
bad.
Dude, it reminded me of what was the fucking movie that we talked about a lot last year with a little kid that like turned it was PG-13 and then at the very end turned super violent with the sister.
Cobweb?
Yeah, Cobweb. This movie kind of reminded me of Cobweb because for the first half an hour, 45 minutes, it was very PG-13 like besides like a couple of swear words and then like the spider fucks some shit up and there's more swearing at the end. I don't know. Do you think that this movie could have been pulled off being PG-13?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
I
Yeah,
don't think
absolutely.
I don't think
I
the
think
gore
honestly
was
it felt
necessary.
I honestly think like it felt like they were trying to go that way anyway. I mean, because like the webs were green and like it definitely could have been, and I think it would have done really well,
Yeah.
honestly, at
I
PG-13.
I think so too. Like none of the violence was like that I think the most violent scene in the movie was the Hispanic lady, the owner of the best character in the whole movie was the Chihuahua. I kid. I'm sorry if you disagree. The Chihuahua was the best character in the fucking movie. It was like telling them that the spider was coming. Nobody listens, and then the spider fucking Chihuahua gets eaten, and nobody gives a fuck. And it's like that poor little like the little girl's like Charlotte's playing with him and having a good old time, and then he gets sucked into the webs, and nobody ever looks for him. Nobody looks for the fucking Chihuahua. The fucking lady kicks him out in the hallway. Okay. How did she kicked him out in the hallway, gets eaten? Also, I don't quite get the spider crawling into her stomach and like cutting its way out. I didn't quite get that. I'm like, why?
I can give you a reason why possibly. There's so many references to other movies, and when I saw that I kind of wondered the same.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of references to Predator. Including like if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah.
There's also like some references to
The
like
blood is like bright blue, but like it's
yeah,
similar to the bright green of the Predator.
yeah, there's a lot of different ways, like even some camera angles and stuff based on what I've seen. So I mean, it
Yeah.
very well could have relation to Predator and Alien, and just across the board, like there's a lot of nods to those movies.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
maybe it's a relation to Alien.
Maybe the alien xenomorph is upside down. Yeah. Man, I'm gonna talk about the fucking Asian dude because I hate him. Like, I think he was the worst character in the whole movie, even worse than the old lady. Because every time that motherfucker talked, his monotone voice made me want to strangle him. His haircut was the worst haircut in the fucking world. He had like, he was like Al Davis or whatever the Davis that owns the Raiders now that Al Davis died, whatever the fuck his Davis that is. Who also I just saw just recently got engaged to like a 20-something-year-old like. I say model. She's a very gorgeous lady, but she looks. I don't want to sound judgmental. She looks very skeezy, but like, and I'm just like, oh, okay, you're marrying a 70-something, 80-something-year-old because he's worth $1 bajillion. Like, it's like Anna Nicole, all over again from the whenever that was, but and he just like is the worst fucking character because he's doing all this weird shit, and then takes the spider and like is kind of like. That's kind of the linchpin of when the spider goes from being like it's eating the parrot and all that shit. Also, what did you think the first time the spider fucking removes the lid of the fucking jar and then like you're like,
nope. I had an issue enough of when the Asian guy electrocuted the top of the jar and the spider dropped down because like
what? Okay,
that caught me off guard.
They were totally doing Gremlins, right? They were doing like the song that fucking Gizmo sings in the original movie, and like I guess in the second one too. But it's just like you were talking about them referencing. Did you find anything about people pointing out that they were? It seemed like they were referencing Gremlins too.
I didn't see anything about Gremlins. I
Did
saw
you?
stuff about The Hobbit. I saw stuff.
Well, I mean,
about,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I saw stuff about arachnophobia because
Yeah.
of the nail gun. Predator, Alien.
Did you personally think of Gremlins when you were like it?
No,
it's,
I did not.
Okay.
I thought of Alien quite a few times.
It sounded like she was singing the thing in like just in Gremlins. That's what that reminded me of. I'm just like, yeah, this is giving me Gremlins vibes. And obviously, I have a French bulldog, or had a French bulldog named Gizmo. So like, I'm partial to these things. And also a giant onesie where I could be Gizmo. But yeah, that was one of those things. I was like, this sounds like she's doing the Gremlins thing where like, because Gizmo sings. Like Gizmo doesn't talk in the movies. He just like kind of makes weird noises and shit. Did you find cool facts about this film? I know you were having issues like
The only
doing the
thing I
budget.
really found was that they were trying to claim that it was set in the United States.
Yeah, it's supposed to
including
be
stuff about her
New
dad
York City.
and
Yeah.
right. But like there were a lot of random, or not a lot, there were a few little things here and there that kind of pointed out that it was not shot in the United States. And one of the biggest issues was the doorknobs, like the height of the doorknobs, apparently. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Where was it
'Cause
shot?
I guess in Australia.
Okay. It was
Yeah.
it's supposed to be taking place in New York City. Is
Mhm.
like the whatever, but like none of it takes place outside, so they can like it's New York City, but like it's very much like Infested, where it all takes place in one building, but it feels the scale feels way smaller because one, there's only one spider, and two, there's like way less characters and getting eaten. There's not like a police element, all the other shit, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were 5 bodies.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, there was another question. I kind of started going down the road that was kind of weird to me, and I was wondering if this was weird to you. It kind of seemed like when the spider bit people,
Mm-hmm.
the earlier people got way more fucked up by it than the later people. So like the Hispanic lady was the first one, like, and then she's like, I know she hit her head and all that stuff, but like her face was like
Melting off and
yeah.
yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, that makes I wonder if it's like the idea being that like the venom is more dangerous the smaller it is or some shit, but
But dude, I will say, I think, and it reminds me because like she's the first one, and then the Asian dude you don't really see, you just see him on the wall, and his face, he looks like a dead body, but he's still alive. But like, I think my favorite scene in the entire movie is when she's walking through the apartment, and the stepdad is getting drug around the couch and shit, and the spider's just like kind of dragging him, and she's got her headphones on so she can't hear, and it's just like, she just keeps not seeing it, and I'm like, this scene is like probably my favorite executed scene in the movie. I was like, this is pretty good. I was like, I was kind of like thinking that the spider like was kind of like digging her, and then like but then it comes back and starts eating. Like, I kind of feel like the spider would have eaten her family last, like instead of like just kind of like in the middle of things, because
well, that was one thing, like whenever the spider like went after her, there was that moment where I was like, oh, like the spider's gonna be like, oh, you were cool, like,
yeah.
but I guess since she kept him captive, but still.
But the spider escaped and went back into his jar. She was feeding him, and they were like, whistling at each other. Like, there's another thing, and I get no, because it's not a real spider. It's from Earth. It's not from Earth. I was like, because Earth spiders like have to shed their things, and this thing was growing like. I thought the spiders in a fucking Infested grew fast, and but this movie they were just like a billion times faster, and I was just like, oh, okay.
And like it just happened to be super tiny when she got it, and
well, I mean, it came in that like she caught it right, like that was one of those, like the movie timing thing where she was like coming through the window like the second after the little spider's asteroid like went through the window, and that was another really cool thing about the movie was the opening title scene where like it's like going through the dollhouse. I thought that was really
Mhm.
cool. And the only thing that made it had weird eyes. Everything else looked like a regular spider, right? Like the eyes were weird. Oh, I guess it was webbing people like it was Spider-Man, but
Yeah.
that was kind
Also,
of
the
weird.
mothball concept to like take it out, that was
Dude,
really cute. It was a really cute idea.
I will say I was like I pumped my fist when she fucking like taped the flashlight on top of her super soaker. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, and I was like, that's a cool thing, man. And that was like one of those things where I think when this movie focused on Charlotte, it was really really good, and it was never bad, but like I think those were the best parts of the movie. I think the stuff with her and her like art and her stepdad were like really cool. But like, yeah, I think there was a lot of stuff in this film that was really, really great. I think all the art they were doing for the comic was really good.
Yeah, the comic art was really good.
Yeah, and the whole like dad stuff where it was like he gets like her dad gets the professor gets killed in the comic and then she brings it back to life and then
That was cute.
yeah, and then the stepdad gets electrocuted, and then like it's like the 1, 2, 3, just like the comic. I thought that was cute. I think it was more
That
like
was adorable.
I think this movie might have like foreshadowed a lot of stuff a little too heavy, but like I was okay with it. Like especially in a 90-minute film like this, where it like does a lot. Man, I really think that they could have just pulled the arachnophobia out of this movie and taken out the gore because there wasn't very much of it, but like, and just made it like at PG-13. But like, I don't know. It feels like there's that still like in the horror community, especially. There's that thing where like I don't want PG-13 horror, and it's like you could do PG-13 horror, man. You just like look at Megan. I mean, Megan was like that R-rated cut of that film wasn't like R-rated as shit anyways. I mean, you watched the R-rated cut at some point, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
It's
it
like
wasn't
yeah, it was like I was fine with the way. I don't need it to be fucking like you can do. I've seen enough gore and stuff. I enjoy gore, but like I don't need it to be gory. Just make it freaky and make it cool and make it like the vibe, like like really interesting. And I don't know. I as of going through this, I was kind of wondering like next week. I had an idea that have you seen Attack the Block
I don't think so.
with John Boyega from the Star Wars movies and stuff like that?
I have not. No.
So I think we should do that next week because it kind of goes. It's got the alien vibe of like, and the ghetto like in the housing project kind of thing, and that was like the first thing I ever saw John Boyega in. But like, it kind of continues that like small like kind of like that movie is way bigger. But I think we should do Attack the Block next week because it is a fantastic little film and highly underappreciated. But was there anything that like what was the thing that stood out to you most about this? Was there something that stood out to you a lot?
A lot of or some of the comments when we were watching it after the fact, where of course there's eggs. Of course there's eggs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't know about the eggs. I was like, yeah, there's always eggs. But in my mind, I was like, could be worse. Could have been so much worse. And a lot of people were talking about setting it up for a sequel, which I mean, it could possibly work, but
So, I mean, this movie, I don't think it got a theatrical run. And if it did you see anything about it getting a
yeah,
theatrical?
it said it did. The box office, there were conflicting reports.
Okay.
But the worldwide that I found on Box Office Mojo was 1.8 million. And then somewhere else had 1.6.
Which it doesn't sound like much like us talking about it, but like with the size of this film, that is probably a significant amount. But like, it seems like one of those movies that got like a weekend or two in like 50 or 100 theaters or something. Like it wasn't all that much. Like maybe theaters like Alamo or like those little kind of artsy theaters all over the place. But Yeah, I don't know, man. I think this movie was cool. I don't think it was like the best movie ever made, but I thought it was fun and it was well done mostly. It was like weird inconsistencies, but like it's it is doing lots of like pointing to other cultural like pop culture like references, right? Like Sting, the titles. I don't think I like it's been a while since I watched the Lord of the Rings movies. I remember the Blade being called I thought the
Yeah, that's
Blade
what
was
it
being
was the reference
yeah,
to, the
but the
blade.
spider was also called Sting. Is
Yeah.
so like I'm like okay, and then like I see Charlotte's Web and all this stuff, and all you were talking about Alien and all that stuff, where a lot of the the duct scenes and all that stuff. Yeah, so like I don't know, man. I thought this movie was cool. I thought it was like it felt way smaller scale than like Infested, which we said was like what $5 million budget. So like it sounds like it was a significantly bigger budget and it had way bigger cast and way more CG. This was one spider. I don't know how many practical effects that movie used, but I still thought this was a cool little film. I thought it was like a good ride. I thought it was like the little girl was great. I thought the relationship with her and the stepfather was great. I thought mostly like the other characters were pretty good. I like the exterminator Frank or whatever his name was. The grandma was just broke my heart a little bit. Like I said, I think that's about all. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about this before we wrap up?
Like I said, I think it's good. I think it's very dark. It does a good job of hiding the budget. It was a little bit slow going at times. There's a lot of vents and moving through air ducts, which seems to happen a lot with these types of movies. But
Yeah.
it was good. Would I watch it again? Maybe, probably not. But
Yeah.
it was
I'm
good.
I'm the same thing. I don't watch better horror movies than this over again. Like for me to rewatch a movie, any movie, either A has to be like for this podcast, or B has to be like something that really, really fucking stands out to me. Like I think the amount of horror movies that I've watched a bunch of times, there's things like The Thing and the Alien movies, and like the Friday the 13th and Nightmare, like iconic stuff, right? And so like. I don't know, man. I don't think there's a lot that I rewatch. I don't think that this movie, unless it like came on or like was in a place where it was standing out that to watch it again, I don't think I would watch it again. But I think that's not a bad thing because there are plenty of really good like horror movies. I almost said comedy movies, but that I haven't watched again. So yeah, it is a thing. Will you stop it, Poodle? I'm getting slapped by Zelda. So yeah, so let's watch Attack the Block next week. It's kind of continuing that like urban horror kind of thing with like the monsters and like these apartment buildings, and there's a lot more, but I think you'll enjoy that movie. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's highly underrated. So yes, Attack the Block. So go to murdermoose.com, get some gear, watch episodes. I don't know if I don't know if I've checked in a while. I don't know if Josh is still putting those up there. But they're on our YouTube, so you could go to YouTube and look for Murder Moose Podcast, and you can find us there. Or you could go to continue.com or STD Motel or STD Hotel or quainttaint.com or only nouns and find Kin in her schedule as she plays more Rim Job every day.
Yeah, come watch me rim job.
I have a link for my book, The Death and Rebirth of a Human Heart, on Amazon, so you can go pick that up. Or come follow me on Twitch at Rod_Johnson and Twitter. So next week is Attack the Block. I don't know if Brian's coming back. I assume he'll come back, but so we love you. Thank you for listening. Ken, you're fucking my favorite, and I love you to death. And we will catch you guys next week for some more Murder Moose.
Bye.
Yeah.